Hey, I'm here to talk about... I was going to talk about something. Oh well, praise Vokodo. Hi, I'm Bobby on Roll for Nerd, and I love nerdy stuff. That's why today we're talking about Critical Role, Campaign 2, Episode 101. There's a lot to talk about, so let's dive right in. So we find ourselves on the island of Rumblecusp to celebrate Traveler Con. They've been welcomed with open arms by a group of local villagers who are all very happy to see new faces. We learned last episode that all the villagers have no memory of their past before the island, and that they all pray to a god named Vokodo. It's a Volcano God. It seems like they all have one motivation: make Vokodo happy. The Mighty Nine have a pretty lengthy conversation with one of the three leaders on the island, Viridian, and Jester tries to explain that they want to have Traveler Con on the island for her god, the Traveler.
But good news is the Traveler is super cool and super likable, and everybody that meets him thinks he's really great, so I'm sure Vokodo will like him too.
Perhaps.
Viridian's a little concerned about having an event honoring another god on the island where her god lives, but she's willing to take the request to Vokodo if they want. Viridian offers them a place to stay, and they gratefully accept. She then goes on to explain how the island is actually the center of the world, and that there are many strange collections of things you'd see from all over Exandria, all in one place. There's the Winding Core, the Shaded Tangles, the Ruins, and the Heaven Falls.
It's the density here, as you grow closer to the core of this world, where everything begins to become a bit jumbled, if you will.
Many of the islanders have special abilities and powers granted by Vokodo. How are you able to cook so well? I've just always been able to do it. Just call it a knack. Right, a knack. So in total, there have been about 11 generations on the island, with Viridian only being around for the last 3 decades. Under her service, people have been thriving. But like everybody else, when asked about her past before the island, she just scratches her head and says, I'm not quite sure, but Vokodo is all that matters now, right?
There is something about this island that gives and takes away. By finding your destiny here and being a part of the important presence of Vokodo and keeping these people safe, and gathering from the island's many rewards and boons. It also takes from you the things that are less important in life. Many, if not most of us, don't quite recall where we were from, but in the long run, that's not as important anyway.
And it comes as no surprise that this deeply concerns the Mighty Nine, and you can physically see the frustration on their faces as they're asking questions to these villagers and getting barely anything.
I feel like we're in one of those villages in a video game where you run through every single question tree.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Just good luck on your mission going forward.
It's hard to get info when nobody remembers anything before the island. It's all very mysterious and strange, and the group decides that they can't really learn anything real until they meet Vokodo themselves. One of the other leaders of the tribe, Lukash, takes the Mighty Nine through the village into a house made out of a giant tree stump. The father of the house offers their home willingly and says, please, stay the night. We'll go ahead and stay somewhere else tonight. The Nine really don't want this offer. It's just too much for them. This is crazy. We couldn't possibly accept, well, okay, we'll stay here. Yeah. Of course, they're very grateful for the shelter and they offer their services to the villagers. They say they could possibly cook for them, or they could play some music to entertain the villagers. The music is what really interests Lukash. And I like to note here that they do keep offering them to stay in the village if they wanted to. Oh, you could stay here if you want. We're really just kind of passing through. Okay, well, if you change your mind, let us know. Okay, yeah, we'll let you know. We're not staying. Okay, we'll see you later. They're not staying. And before Lukash leaves them in the house, Jester asks very bluntly, what's the deal with the mist?
What's with the mist?
It's misty.
Why is it misty?
Because it is. It's always been misty.
Is the mist dangerous?
No, but some dangerous things use the mist to not be seen, so maybe steer clear of it.
Okay.
Once Lukash does finally leave, the group now has time to talk alone. They discuss how concerned they are for the villagers and their state of mind. They also seem very concerned for their ship, so Jester sends a message to Orly. While this is happening, Bo starts jotting down a bunch of notes in her journal just in case their memories start to fade while they're staying on the island.
They've got this Vokodo who's demands precious things, just not things of worth, but things that are precious.
Yeah.
And when you run out of precious things, what are you left with to give?
Yourself.
Than yourself. Maybe that's what it takes.
Mockingly, Jester thinks of a really fun nickname for Vokodo.
What if it's just a giant avocado?
That would be delicious.
Like the kind you eat?
Yeah.
Suspicious of what's going on, Bo decides to quickly investigate the stump house and finds a few platforms above them. She jumps up and finds a rusty jeweler's kit and a chest with some belongings. Some fancy clothes that belong to a man and a woman, most likely designed and tailored in Port Zune, a child's doll, and a silver pocket watch with the initials BV on it. Sam, or Veth, freaks out and thinks that they figured out the name of whoever BV would be. Jester's also very excited and asks Ford, hey, what's Vandren's first name? Ford tells them that Vandren is his first name, but Travis isn't really sure if that was his first name or last name, and we're kind of left with a big question mark. They decide to all head out and kind of look around the village for a little while and explore. While they're heading out, Jester is approached by a villager. It ends up being the Traveler, and they have a small talk with nobody else being able to see who Jester's talking to. The Traveler's very interested in Vokodo and would love to meet him at some point. So it's gonna be a god meeting a god, or a not really god meeting a not really god, we're not sure. Either way, it's gonna be interesting. The group kind of splits up into different areas, with Ford going over to Pono and Jaina, who are currently preparing the displacer beast they caught earlier for dinner. Ford asks them to describe the other leader of the village, Tara, for him, and they describe her as a furball with a very stern personality. He thanks them for their help and ends up helping them cut up this displacer beast for dinner. Caleb decides to find a place to sit by himself. He puts a wand that was gifted to him by Kaliana into the dirt, sets up a globule of light, and then starts designing in a notebook, which we can only assume is probably a wand. Maybe a fireballs? We're not sure. Caduceus decides to help Enola, the local cook, prepare for the feast tonight, making sure to keep an eye out for any weird ingredients that she's using, but doesn't end up seeing anything really besides the use of too much salt, which seems to really bother him a lot. Jester decides to go out and do some caricatures for the local villagers, with the intent of trying to find someone with the initials BV. Unfortunately for her, nobody in the group has the initials BV, and she's left very unsatisfied. But she was able to do some good for the village. Yasha finds a secluded area to practice on her harp for a little bit. She's both very nervous and excited for tonight's performance. Bo goes off and finds a villager's son named Tree, and tries to get some more info out of him about the village. Unfortunately, the kid's only 7 years old and doesn't really know a lot.
What is like the goal of your village? Do you know? Do you have like a mission?
What?
He's like
he wipes the snot from under his
what's your
nose.
social economical contribution?
You're a kid. What's the purpose of life?
The last leader of the group, Tara, finally arrives with her hunting party. They carry with them 2 large scaled beasts, which later Matt reveals to be Deinonychuses. Basically dinosaurs that were alive before the calamity. Finally, dinner's ready and the entire village gathers together to eat near a giant bonfire. The 3 leaders, Viridian, Lukash, and Tara, sit at the head of the villagers, and they begin asking the Mighty Nine a lot of questions about what they want to achieve and what they want the villagers to do for them while they're on the island. The Mighty Nine ask if they can go visit Vokodo soon, and Viridian happily offers to take them in the morning. She actually has a scheduled visit with Vokodo every month, so this kind of works out anyway. Interested, the 9 ask Viridian, what happens when you don't go and visit Vokodo?
And how is his frustrations manifested?
By lessening the protections in the village for a time.
Right. So you'll maybe randomly get swarmed by beasts, and it's like, uh-oh, Vokodo's having a bad week.
Possibly.
During all of this conversation, Ford feels the hairs on the back of his neck stand up and feels like he's being watched. He looks behind him, but doesn't see anybody. Not sure who to trust yet, Caleb decides to pretend to eat the food, but instead eat one of his magical nourishment beads, which will fulfill him for the day. Definitely a smart move, Caleb. After dinner, Yasha takes out her harp and begins performing for the village. Caleb decides to create a bunch of beautiful lightning effects behind her. She rolls really well, and the entire village is consumed by this performance. It's a really beautiful scene.
There is an unexpected grace to the movements, the gentle shifting of the wrist, the swaying with each progressive pull. And as the eyes are still closed and the lightning is still flashing, you see Yasha in a vulnerable light you've not really seen before. In a healing light.
Before bed, the Mighty Nine alone now begin talking about ways to deal with Vokodo. Jester brings up the fact that the Traveler would love to meet Vokodo and thinks that the two gods meeting would help a lot. They try to explain to Jester that the whole thing's a little bit more complicated than that and that her god isn't really a real god, so it might not work out in her favor. Unfortunately, Jester doesn't want to hear any of this.
Avocado is a real god, then maybe he won't be threatened by the Traveler, you know?
He shouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
Well, he should be because the Traveler is still pretty amazing and very powerful, so...
You know you've kind of got a weird little cult going, and that's okay. To be fair, I'm in a weird little cult. I mean, it's there's nothing unusual or wrong about that. It's, you know, all a god is really is a cult with a franchise. So
Going through his inventory, Cad asks the group if anybody has the need for any extra magical items. Jester raises her hand, and he gives her a charm that will allow her to speak to plants from now on. Wanting to get some more information, Jester sits down and casts Commune. Through this Commune, she's able to confirm a few things. Vokodo is the one watching them. Also, Vokodo doesn't have a godly presence to him, so probably isn't a god. And finally, Vokodo definitely is influencing the villagers. Thinking ahead, Cad has a really brilliant idea to have a kind of nightly and morning ritual.
my name is Caduceus Clay. I am from the Savalier Wood in the Blooming Grove. My father's name is Cornelius. My mother's name is Constance. I'd say just say your name, where you're from, and one thing about your past.
Ooh, that's good.
This would allow them every day to prove that their memories haven't been tampered with and they are intact. In the morning, Matt has them all roll for investigation. Basically what happens is Caduceus, Yasha, and Jester all fail their roll, and we're told to all choose one item. Now, the group thinks this is Vokodo taking an item, but it's even stranger.
Yasha, the blanket that you generally kind of keep is just one element of comfort amongst the harsh interiors. You don't know where it is, you can't find it. You can look for it if you want to make a perception check.
That's mine.
19.
I was
19. You take a little bit of time in the house and you end up finding it tucked under one of the beds.
Oh.
You just lost track of it.
Oh.
It's weird.
What the
maybe you
fuck?
moved in the middle of your sleep.
Out of the bubble?
Yeah.
What?
After this weird experience, they go around and say their names and their parents' names, and in fact, they're a morning ritual now, and everyone seems to be okay. No memories tampered with yet. They meet up with Viridian and head on the path to the volcano. As they go deeper into the forest, it becomes denser and darker for some reason. And they even come upon a bunch of these black pools of liquid that scatter all along the trail. Viridian warns them that these pools actually have a very scary beast inside of them and to try to avoid them at all costs. Viridian goes on to transform into an owl and flies up to the branches above for safety. While trying to avoid all these different pools of black liquid, Caduceus unfortunately ends up falling into two of them and twice is attacked by one of the creatures with these large incisors. Fortunately though, both times Yasha is able to pull him out and bring him to safety. Although he was damaged both physically and probably more emotionally, we do get the amazing line of, "Help, it's again."
What?
Just slips into the tar, and this is a second familiar space where all of a sudden you slip in once more.
No.
And you're stuck.
God damn it! I'm gonna cast bless on myself, bless on you, and bless on Jester. Help! It's again.
Seeing Viridian's tactic, Caleb also turns himself into a giant owl and flies up to the trees as well, watching the group from above. The further they go into the jungle, things only get darker and colder. Plant life here seems to be desaturated, and very worried, Jester pulls out her charm to talk to the plants. The trees here tell her that they feel like they're being drained of all life force, and they feel totally zapped of all energy.
How would you help me?
I don't know, maybe we can get rid of the thing that's causing you to get drained of your life force.
What?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, I'm gonna try.
Are you helping trees?
Thank
Jester?
you.
You're welcome. What if this guacamole is like really bad? And maybe by bringing the Traveler here and like, you know, all of his worshippers, maybe we can get rid of this guacamole.
Bo suddenly hears a noise off the beaten path into the jungle and decides to break from the group. She hears some mournful crying and decides to investigate.
It's just ahead. There's like, I can see eyes in the hollow of a tree, and it's sad.
And I don't know. Start crying because maybe it, wants some.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Like
That's a good idea.
God.
I kind of walk towards it a little bit, and I go,
She stares back at them for a bit and they disappear. She begins throwing ball bearings around to see if maybe the creature will come out of its hiding and reveal itself. But no luck. Kind of getting over it, she decides to call over the group and they all join her. She asks them to pretend cry with her to get the creature to come out, and some of them do, while some of them don't. Ford seems very confused at what's happening right now. Cad decides to cast Eyes of the Grave finally, and does see something next to Bo. Quickly he casts Turn the Dead, but unfortunately the creature passes its save and doesn't work.
As you turn and look, Beauregard, right behind you on the opposite end of where Caduceus is, you turn and look right into the face of what you see is this hood-shrouded humanoid body, long arms beneath this kind of brown, tattered robe. Where the eyes are, you see these black gem-like shines in these sunken sockets. The skin itself is this kind of dark gray rubbery texture. There's no nose.
does it look like the same sheen of eyes that I saw?
Yes.
Okay.
From the description that Matt gives, it sounds like a Badak. And that's where the session ends. I had a really fun time watching this episode. It was a really great one. We had a lot of new information kind of brought into the fold. We know a lot more about Vokodo. We know a lot more about the villagers. There's still a lot of questions to be asked and a whole island to explore with some really crazy stuff on it. So I can tell the characters or the actors are all having a really good time in this new story. And just in general, it's been so fun to watch them in this separate story from our main Wildmount story. Because they've been kind of, wandering Wildmount for so long now, kind of putting out fires, especially with the war going on. And to allow them to be able to be in a separate story now and meet new characters and have a different adventure is probably really fun for them. I know it is for me, and I hope it is for all of you. If you have any comments or questions or theories, leave them below, and I'm looking forward so much to the next episode of Critical Role. I'll let Matt finish this episode out, and I hope you all have a great week.
We love you very much. And is it Thursday yet?
Yeah.
Good night, guys.